is a deputy DPP in the DPP office responsible for the portfolio of environmental matters in the general stream. And then last but by no means least, we've got Mr. December Chimuni. Mr. December Chimuni is the chief prosecutor, acting chief prosecutor for the Pretoria cluster. And then there at the back, we've got the director administration, Ms. Nicole. She is responsible for the administration in the office. Okay. Greetings to all residents of Gauteng and members of the media present. The purpose of this briefing is to account and to inform the members of the public about our overall performance in the division of Gauteng Division Pretoria of the High Court of South Africa. The briefing will also highlight the process of strengthening the division's capacity, including and giving an update on major high-profile cases that the division is currently dealing with in various courts across Gauteng. The office conducts operations for the province of Gauteng, and the seat of the Gauteng division is in Pretoria. The jurisdiction of this division incorporates the entire metropolitan area of Tshwane, parts of Ekurhuleni metropolitan area, the whole of the Citibank district, and Brits in the northwest. The Gauteng Division Pretoria consists of two clusters, namely the Pretoria cluster, which is headed, as I've already mentioned, by Mr. Mtimunyi, as well as the Valrand cluster, which is headed by the Chief Prosecutor, Mr. Khomotsa Matebe, who has already been introduced. Despite the challenges that we have, our lower courts continue to achieve most of our planned targets, both in the regional courts as well in the district courts, where the bulk of prosecutions are conducted. It is, however, apparent that the working environment of these prosecutors needs to be improved, and to this end, we rely on greater stakeholder engagement. Coming to the management structure of the division is headed by the Director of Public Prosecutor, Sibongile Mzinyathi, myself, and has got a total of 404 employees with 35 vacancies. The following components operate from the DPP office. We've got the admin component, which is responsible for providing leadership, administrative leadership, with responsibilities including managing and monitoring of the expenditure, ensuring implementation of asset management, facilitating the development or review of the HR plan and the skills development program. Then we've got the governance component, which is responsible for ensuring that the division develops an annual performance plan, and it ensures that the individual performance agreements are aligned to this plan. Performance in terms of this plan is monitored on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, and regular reports are prepared and presented. The governance component is also responsible for identifying the regional risks and to report on the impact thereof. The component works closely with the management to find innovative ways to improve our performance. Then we've got the general streams component,
which is the largest component in the division, since it includes all the state advocates in the high courts and together with the prosecutors in the lower courts. This component manages the cases that are heard in the high courts as well as the regional and district courts. This component also assists the SCCU in dealing with corruption matters that have been migrated or transferred to the DPP office because of low complexity. Then we've got the organized crime component, which is a specialized component dealing with prosecution of organized crimes related organized crime cases that are investigated by the specialized organized unit of the DPCI and the SAPS, South African Police Service Detectives component. The component primarily utilizes the provisions of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, called POCA, which includes offenses of money laundering and racketeering. It works closely in conjunction with the Asset Forfeiture Unit to deal with these matters. The priority is to address crimes that are committed in an organized fashion, as determined from time to time in terms of our strategy, which include, but not limited to, copper cable theft, including essential infrastructure crimes, wildlife crimes like rhino poaching, and also cases relating to illicit trafficking in drugs and cash in transit cases. The next component is the specialized tax unit, which is responsible for all tax-related prosecutions, and it works closely with the police as well as the SARS criminal investigations. It is also responsible for the prosecution of complex tax matters, which include matters of an organized crime nature. For instance, tax-related cases related to contraband offenses. Then we've got the offices of the chief prosecutors. This is where the bulk of the work is conducted. Consequently, therefore, the offices of the chief prosecutors contribute, are the largest contributors towards the indicators of the division. Then you've got the Specialized Commercial Crimes Unit, whose mandate is to focus on government priority in the fight against serious priority corruption cases emanating from the Anti-Corruption Task Team, as well as cases from the SIU, the Special Investigating Unit. This unit also deals with cases that emanate from corruption and fraud committed in the state-owned enterprises. The SCCU deals with the following category of cases, that is all fraud and corruption cases involving political office bearers at national, provincial, and local level, as well as private sector corruption cases involving intricate schemes requiring extensive investigation skills. It also deals with cases that emanated from the COVID-19 Relief Fund. All medium and low complex corruption cases that were in the SCCU have been devolved or transferred to the lower courts so that the SCCU can focus on high profile and complex commercial crimes. The regional head of the SCCU serves as the NPA nodal point at all interdepartmental teams that are set up to identify and prosecute criminal conduct emanating from the COVID-19 Relief Fund, as I've already indicated. The SCCU is a member of the decentralized regional anti-corruption task team management committee, together with the Asset Forfeiture Unit and the Serious Corruption Office of the DPCI. In terms of our challenges, we continue to experience challenges in the finalization rate of corruption matters. These cases require prosecutors with specialized skills, and these cases are often hotly contested by the accused persons in court, which will result in lower finalization rates. Coming to trio crimes, we may report that a few years ago we had very low conviction rates in trio crimes. But with the assistance and cooperation of chief prosecutors, we have now reported a significant higher number of cases that have been finalized under the trio crimes indicator. Due to the complex nature of cases handled by the SCCU, these cases take longer to finalize and often require evidence of numerous expert witnesses. Furthermore, many of these cases include evidence that relate to Section 252A undercover operations. Authorization procedures for these undercover operations are always placed in dispute in court, resulting in additional evidence that needs to be adduced in court in the form of trial within the trial. The division has identified a few strategic priority projects that are being conducted in the division. The first one is the effective use of Section 18 of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. The purpose of this project is to increase the number of confiscation orders by the asset forfeiture unit using orders that are given by magistrates in the lower courts. This provision is applicable in instances where a prosecutor upon conviction can make an application from the court for an order for the confiscation of benefits derived from crime. Then we've got a drugs project. This one is to obtain crime intelligence and from SAP's criminal intelligence section on priority drug syndicates and dealers. The purpose is also to cause the crime intelligence unit to register network operations on the identified priority crimes and syndicates. It is also to register at least 2 projects or investigations emanating from the work of network operations per annum. It also uses available law enforcement capabilities to gather court-directed evidence, including financial investigations. It is also aimed to institute successful prosecutions in the identified projects. And it is also to ensure that the financial benefits derived from these criminal activities are recovered. We then have the gender-based violence project. This is aimed to improve and educate the participation, to educate and improve and participate in community initiatives aimed at addressing the scourge of gender-based violence. It also works hand in hand with NGOs and other relevant stakeholders. This is a project which needs collaboration and through education and awareness. As a division, it is our mission to minimize these crimes through collective efforts. This is in conjunction with our community prosecution project, which has got 2 sites in Mamelodi and Brakpan, with a specific focus on gender-based violence. Then we've got a non-complex corruption project by government officials. The division is addressing its obligation to build and enhance capacity within this division to deal with public sector corruption by adopting this strategy and engaging in processes and structures to deal with this public sector corruption. Then we've got the trio crimes project. This is aimed to improve prosecutor-guided investigations and increase successful prosecutions of trio crimes in the division, which has got a significant impact on the people of Gauteng's feelings of safety and security. Then the last priority project is a conduct crime project in Mamelodi. This project was developed after observing the police stats that indicated that Mamelodi has got quite high crime rates. The purpose of the project is to educate and improve and participate in community initiatives aimed at addressing conduct crime in Mamelodi. It requires collaboration between the community, SAPS, and all relevant stakeholders in addressing this challenge. It is not only limited to Mamelodi, but has got also a network that spans across the whole of Tshwane district. The fight against conduct crime needs collaboration also through education and awareness campaigns. As a division, it is our mission to minimize conduct crime through collaboration and participation of community members in community initiatives. Coming to the performance indicators for the year 2023-2024. The division achieved a high conviction rate in the High Court of 91.9%. This is 68 convictions out of 74 cases finalized. The High Court deals with serious cases like murder, rape, femicide, sexual offenses, human trafficking, organized crime, and commercial crimes. The regional courts during this period achieved a conviction rate of 83.3%, which is 1,540 convictions out of 1,837 cases finalized. More serious cases that cannot be dealt with in the district courts are dealt with in the regional court. Cases like murder, rape, robbery, housebreaking, essential infrastructure, serious fraud, and corruption. Our district courts achieved a conviction rate of 96.3%, which is 12,640 convictions out of 13,130 cases finalized. On murder prosecutions, the division achieved 81.7%, which is 196 convictions out of 240 cases finalized. One case that can be highlighted in this regard is the prosecution, the high-profile prosecution that was dealt with in the division against Mr. Vusikeke Matelula and 4 others for the conviction of businessman, Mr. Wandile Pozwana. After a lengthy trial, the accused were finally convicted and sentenced to lengthy terms of imprisonment, which is 30 years of direct imprisonment each for all the accused. Then conviction rate in femicide prosecutions, the division achieved a 100% conviction, 29 cases out of 29 cases finalized were resulted in a conviction. The division has a femicide protocol on how to handle femicide matters. All these matters are dealt with in the High Court, and they need to be reported within 7 days to the DPP office so that investigations can be guided from the onset by officers or state advocates from the DPP office. Then the conviction rate in intimate murder partner femicide, we achieved a conviction rate of 97.2%, which is 35 cases finalized. 35 cases convicted out of 36 cases finalized. In this regard, the case that can be highlighted is the case of State versus Nchabaleng. This was an intimate partner femicide case where the accused was sentenced to life imprisonment. The accused was also sentenced to life imprisonment in the case of State versus Maluleke, which was also a case of intimate partner femicide. Coming to trio crimes, which are crimes related to house robberies, business robberies, and car hijackings. These crimes are the most feared crimes as they cause significant trauma and personal threat through their violent nature. In this, we achieved a conviction rate of 80.5%, which was 103 cases convicted out of 128 cases finalized. The case that can be highlighted here is the case of State versus Fore and others, State versus Shagu and others, and State versus Moima and others. Several convictions in these cases were achieved in the High Court, including a sizable cash in transit heist that was orchestrated by a group of people which included members of the service providers in the transportation of cash. The main accused was the regional manager of the company of the SBV company, who was responsible inter alia for allocating routes and therefore was in a good position to know what was being transported, where to and when, and the routes that will be traveled. He conspired with known CIT robbers to rob the van on a quiet section of the road, and they rammed it off the road and managed to rob 25 million rand. The most significant piece of evidence that proved pivotal in this case was obtained through the forensic expert analysis done by a cyber expert that works for the cash in transit company concerned. This evidence managed through cell phone tower linkages to map the movements and communications between the robbers and the various accused, including the manager concerned, who did not participate in the actual robbery on the day, but was shown to have participated in the planning and receiving of the cash. Another significant feature of this case is that despite the lengthy imprisonment that each of the four accused were given, which is 30 years of direct imprisonment, the accused also issued Section 30 compensation orders against all the accused. The case of State versus Shagu involved a series of robberies of businesses and customers at petrol stations around Pretoria by a group of men using minibus taxis as transport. The case was partly heard when the prosecutor assigned to the case became unavailable, and another prosecutor had to take over the case. The 7 accused were each sentenced to effective long-term imprisonment ranging between 15 to 25 years. Coming to sexual offenses, the conviction rate in sexual offenses is 77.5%, which is 306 cases convicted out of 395 cases finalized. The case that can be highlighted in this regard is the case of State versus Clifford Mashilo. The accused in this case was a 29-year-old man who can be classified as a serial rapist in that he raped a lot of women over several years. His first victim was an 8-year-old woman, and throughout his reign of terror, most of his victims were of advanced age. His modus operandi was to identify and target these vulnerable old women, break into their homes, rape the victims, and in some instances even threaten to kill them. In many of these instances, he would threaten his victims with a firearm whilst committing the sexual violation. In all these cases, the accused was linked through DNA, and in some instances, he was identified because he was known to the victims. The accused was met with a solid, impenetrable case and had no option but to tender a plea of guilty. Victim impact statements were used in aggravation of sentence in this case. As a result, the accused was sentenced to 5 life terms. 651 additional years were imposed. In total, the accused was imprisonment for 10 counts of rape, 17 counts of housebreaking, and attempted robbery, as well as possession of a firearm. Going to complex commercial crimes and corruption, the conviction rate in these cases is at 90.5%, which translates to 38 convictions out of 42 cases finalized. The number of government officials convicted for cases related to corruption include the case of State versus Osei. The accused was charged with 5 counts of fraud. The charge falls under the wide corruption definition under the PRECA Act, the Prevention of Corruption and Corrupt Activities Act. In this matter, theft of public money was involved, and the accused was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, suspended for 5 years. And an amount of 726,000 was confiscated from the accused in terms of Section 18 of the POCA Act. State versus Sikola and another. One of the accused convicted in this case was employed by the Department of Home Affairs as an immigration officer. She conspired with a second accused who belongs to a crime syndicate to sell 9,000 visa labels from the Department of Home Affairs that would be used to legitimize the presence of illegal immigrants who are foreign nationals in the country. 149,000 rand was paid for these documents. Cases involving complex tax, the conviction rate in these cases was 90.9%, which translates to 10 cases convicted out of 11 cases finalized. Cases involving money laundering. Here we've got the case of State versus Janssen. The accused was charged and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. In organized crime, there is a case that can be highlighted that indicates international cooperation with other law enforcement agencies across the world. We refer to this as the cocaine boat case. This case involves a group of South Africans, mainly from the Western Cape, who, in conjunction with foreign international drug traffickers, conspired to import cocaine received from other vessels in the open sea and smuggled it to land in Cape Town using smaller fishing vessels, where the drugs were then stashed in various locations before being moved to Gauteng with the intention of exporting it to international destinations like Belgium and Australia. About 2.8 tons of cocaine was smuggled on 2 occasions by this group. The Hawks, in conjunction with the assistance of the Australian Federal Police and the FBI in the US, managed to arrest about 17 of these suspects. Unfortunately, the main foreign kingpin suspect escaped and is presently in a foreign country. The foreign agencies had, through covert means, managed to intercept the encrypted communications of this group, and this was made available to the Hawks. Mutual legal assistance requests to Australia, USA, and France have been sent, and the evidence from the United States has recently been received and is being perused. The case, upon investigation, will be enrolled in the High Court. Financial investigations are ongoing in the case, including into the financial infrastructure that enabled the syndicate to fund their drug operations. Other conviction rates that can be highlighted include the conviction rate in environmental affairs, in environmental crimes, 87%, which is 7 cases convicted out of 8 cases finalized. Conviction rate in cybercrime prosecutions at 100%. All cases that were finalized resulted in a conviction. Conviction rate in essential infrastructure, 77.9%. 120 cases convicted out of 154 finalized. And conviction rate in cable theft, 80.7%, which translates to 96 convictions out of 119 cases finalized. Current highlights that we can indicate. Under organized crime, we can highlight the VPS matter. This office became involved in the VPS matter during November 2019. And it is being handled by a prosecutor in the DPP office attached to the organized crime component, Advocate van der Merwe. The matter is conducted in conjunction with the SCCU. In the main matter, that is State versus Matutsi and others, this was enrolled in June 2020. This related to the various offenses that were committed that resulted in the demise of VPS Mutual Bank. There have been various delays in the case that are primarily occasioned by the delaying tactics by the accused, the so-called Stalingrad defenses. The accused are being arraigned in the Pretoria High Court on 188 charges that include offenses of racketeering, theft, corruption, and money laundering. Mr. Matutsi pleaded guilty and was sentenced to an effective term of 15 years imprisonment on each of the counts that were preferred against him, as set out in the charge sheet. Then we've got the case of State versus Muhlala. Mr. Muhlala is a former municipal manager at the Fetahomo municipality, and he pleaded guilty to a contravention of the Municipal Financial Management Act on the 6th of November 2024. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment which was suspended for 5 years on condition that he is not convicted of contravention of the Municipal Financial Management Act again, and that he pays 100,000 to the liquidator of VPS. Then we've got the case of State versus Makamu. Mr. Makamu is a former chief financial officer of the Collins Chabane municipality. He pleaded guilty to one count of contravention of section 173 of the local of the Municipal Financial Management Act. He pleaded guilty on the basis that he acted negligently when he recommended for an investment of 120 million rand of the municipality to VPS, which was not recovered. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, which was suspended for 5 years on condition that he is not convicted of contravention of the Municipal Finance Management Act in that period, and that he pays 150,000 rand to the liquidator of VPS. Both Mr. Mhlala and Mr. Makamu will testify against the accused in the main case of State versus Matuth. In relation to TRC matters, for the matter of a Davidson student activist, Mr. Caiphas Nyoga, one accused in that case, Mr. Johan Marie, pleaded guilty on the 12th of November, and he will be sentenced on the 27th of January, 2025. The trial of the remaining 3 accused that were charged with Mr. Johan Marie is currently continuing in the High Court sitting in Pinoni. Then there is the case of State versus Kutsia and another. This case is before the Pretoria High Court, and it relates to the disappearance of Ms. Nogutula Simelane, who was a member of the Liberation Forces Against Apartheid. The case has not yet commenced, as there are still proceedings pertaining to the mental health of one of the accused persons. The case will be back in court on the 23rd of January, 2025, and we hope that the trial will commence. There are currently 2 MLA requests, mutual legal assistance requests, that have recently been sent to Angola and Mozambique pertaining to the murder of activists that were in those countries during the apartheid era. Going to sexual offenses, we can highlight the case of State versus Emmanuel Nkosinathi Phakathi. The Pretoria High Court sitting in Palmridge sentenced this serial rapist to 42 life imprisonment, 42 life terms, as well as 791 years of direct imprisonment. This was after the accused was found guilty of 90 counts of rape, 3 counts of compelling or causing children to witness a sexual act, 43 counts of kidnapping, 2 counts of assault, as well as 4 counts of theft. Phakathi committed these offenses in and around Ekurhuleni from June 2012 until March 2021, when he was arrested. And the majority of his victims were school-going children, the youngest being 9 years old. Then we've got the case of the serial rapist matter of State versus Sipho Lucas Puri, which will continue in the Pinoni High Court on the 20th of January to the 28th of March, 2025. The accused is charged with 114 counts of rape of minors and other adult females. His modus operandi was giving his victims lifts either to or from work, and he operated from Davidson, Tembisa, Ivory Park, Kempton Park, as well as Badfontein. Going to corruption matters. The case of State versus M. Lupondo is in the Pretoria High Court. The accused in this case is a former acting director of public prosecutions. Mr. Lupondo was dismissed on the 30th of July 2024, and he faces serious charges ranging from corruption and bringing the NPA into disrepute. After he was dismissed after he was found guilty of offering a bribe to a senior state advocate in Pretoria to withdraw a case. Then we've got the case of State versus Leballo. This is the case of a former state prosecutor at the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrate Court. The accused is in court in the SCCU for corruption. The case will be back in court on the 21st of February 2025. Then we've got the case of State versus Mahlakwane. This is the case of a district court prosecutor. She's facing charges of corruption, extortion, and obstruction of justice. The case will be in court again on the 25th of February 2025. Then there is the case of Mr. State versus Raparat. This is the case of a prosecutor based in Pretoria, who is also currently on suspension, and he's facing 2 counts of extortion. The matter will be in court on the 17th of February 2025. Going to COVID-19 related cases, we've got the Digital Vibes case. We've got the case of State versus Tonjeni, who is a former infrastructure support agency senior official. She was sentenced to 5 years direct imprisonment. Then there's the case of State versus Macha, who is a senior National Department of Health employee and is on trial. Then we've got the Steinhoff cases. The SCCU has to date finalized 2 matters in the Steinhoff investigations. The first is the former Steinhoff Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Andres Lachrans, who on 3rd October 2024 was sentenced to 10 years direct imprisonment, of which 5 years are suspended. And the sentence was on condition that he testifies against his co-accused in the main trial. Then a former Steinhoff physician, Dr. Gerardus Berger, was on 26 September sentenced to 5 years direct imprisonment, which is wholly suspended on conviction that he is not convicted of a contravention of Financial Markets Act, and he will also testify against his co-accused in the main trial. Then we've got the Life Esidimeni inquest. The Life Esidimeni inquest started on the 19th of July 2021, where a total of 40 witnesses were called. The judgment by the inquest judge found that former Gauteng MEC Xotani Mahlangu and former Gauteng Mental Health Dr. Magamo Manamela can be held liable for the death of 9 of the patients. To date, the decision to prosecute or not to prosecute against the accused has not been made because there are still internal processes of going through carefully through the finding of the inquest court to ensure that a well-informed decision is made. We, however, still commit and assure families of the victims and the public that this matter is being given priority. Then we can talk about the matter of the so-called Bushiri case. This is a well-documented case and consists of several legs. It is investigated by the Hawks. Two of these cases involve predicate offenses of fraud and money laundering from investors. The main accused, or one of the accused in this case, and his wife, absconded from the country to a neighboring country where extradition proceedings are underway to have them extradited back to South Africa to face trial. In the meantime, their co-accused in the fraud case are appearing before court, and they have brought several bail-related applications in order to enable them to travel abroad. On the 16th of October this year, the court ordered a separation of trials to remove Mr. and Mrs. Bushiri from the indictment so that the remaining accused, their trial can commence. This case, as pointed out, this case is before the Pretoria High Court, and the trial is scheduled to start on the 20th of January, 2025. Then going to the asset forfeiture related matters. The asset forfeiture unit secured 3 forfeiture orders related to illegal mining kingpins, valued at the value of 18 million rand at the Pretoria High Court on the 20th of March 2024. The orders are to forfeit various properties belonging to the kingpins, which are proceeds of unlawful activities of a syndicate that is dealing in unwrought gold in the Gauteng area in Carletonville. 3 final forfeiture orders relate to 51 vehicles, 7 properties in Gauteng, Carletonville, and in Potchefstroom, as well as 16 bank accounts. This case emanates from a criminal investigation by the DPCI called Project Gillette, which is aimed specifically at infiltrating syndicates that deal in unwrought gold. This is gold that is bought from the so-called illegal zamazamas. The gold is processed, and the syndicate involves nationals from Zimbabwe and Mozambique. The case stands postponed for trial in the Pretoria High Court in February 2025. Going to cases related to the National Lotteries Commission. The investigation into these cases was initiated by a presidential proclamation authorizing the SIU to investigate allegations of fraud and theft and corruption emanating from the malpractices at the National Lotteries Commission. The investigation by the SIU revealed that there was massive corruption and theft committed by senior employees in the NLC who acted in cahoots with members of the public, who are either business people or ordinary people, but who are well-known individuals. The SIU referred this investigation to the NPA, and the asset forfeiture unit of the NPA got involved. The asset forfeiture unit conducted financial investigations which uncovered an elaborate scheme to steal millions of rands from the National Lotteries Commission. All asset forfeiture applications were centralized and dealt with by the Pretoria Regional Office of the Asset Forfeiture Unit. The asset forfeiture brought applications for the forfeiture totaling 18 applications against various individuals who were implicated in the theft to the value of 93 million rand. Some of the applications were opposed, some were not. The asset forfeiture unit confiscated various assets in the form of houses and motor vehicles, and the investigations are still underway. Then there are ESCOM cases that also are dealt with by the asset forfeiture unit, which secured 2 forfeiture orders to the value of 33 million rand from the Pretoria High Court on the 20th of March 2024. These 2 orders were to finally forfeit various properties which are the proceeds of unlawful activities at the ESCOM's Kusile power station, following allegations of maladministration and corruption. The asset forfeiture unit in this ESCOM case was granted a freezing order by the Pretoria High Court. The restraint is to freeze properties and cash worth 29 million rand. Mr. Motheli Ben Tselesane, who has since passed on, was employed at ESCOM on a contract basis, and he worked in a prepaid environment, supporting ESCOM's prepaid vending system. He operated as a supervisor in this role and therefore obtained intimate knowledge of operations of machines. And he also acquired technical expertise on the ins and outs of the credit dispensing units. During his employment, he also acquired knowledge of the electricity vouchers and which he concealed after his exit from ESCOM. After his passing in 2017, the business was taken over by his wife and his 3 sons. In 2012, it was discovered that Selesane was allegedly running a ghost vending operation where he illegally generated electricity vouchers to the value of 36 million rand and sold them to the public for his benefit. The business became so lucrative that it was expanded through all 9 provinces. Through the syndicate of the Tselesane family, or through this syndicate, they managed to acquire 27 movable properties, 39 immovable properties worth over 23 million rand. This family, together with other 10 accused, were arrested on the 14th of July 2021 and appeared in the Falkville Magistrates Court. The case against these accused will proceed from the 25th to the 29th of August 2025 at the Pretoria High Court sitting in Pembridge. In conclusion, it may be highlighted that the division is also involved in the prosecution of theft of fuel from the Transnet fuel pipeline that brings crude oil, petrol, and gas from Durban to Gauteng. 2 cases were recently finalized by prosecutors, one in Pretoria and the other one in Vereeniging, where the offenders who are stealing fuel from the Transnet pipeline were sentenced to lengthy terms of imprisonment. Ladies and gentlemen and members of the media, this then concludes this briefing and will be open for questions and answers. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. I will now be taking the questions. So the media house will need to introduce themselves and tell us where you're coming from, and then I will direct the question to the relevant person. Yes. Can you maybe move closer so that we can all hear each other? Oh, we also have a roving mic.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Aleka Kodashi from EWN. I just wanted to know, one of the high-profile matters that is in your division is the BDS matter. We've seen various accounts of what has taken place, particularly in relation to the former Justice Minister. I wanted to know if there is any possibility that the NPA would be moving in that respect in relation to charges against the former Justice Minister, Thembisi Nene. And there were also reports about trials and court dates in the Gauteng division in particular, which has been a subject of crisis in relation to the backlog in cases that it faces. I wanted to know, to what effect does this challenge have any or poses any challenges to the NPA in relation to your investigations and how long it takes for matters to be heard in the Gauteng division? Thanks.
Malentle Mthethwa for SABC News. One of my questions relates to the state capture corruption charges. We understand that the Commission for evidence was heard on a daily basis, and we hear the DPP indicating that some of these corruption charges are rather difficult to convict. Are we going to see prosecutions and convictions when it comes to those cases, particularly around the ESCOM, Transnet, and other individuals, including the former CEO and the rest? And in regards to gender-based violence, there's a matter that is before the Pretoria High Court where a victim was given 40,000 rand to withdraw charges. Are you able to just give us clarity on that?
Okay. Do we have any other questions before the panel respond to the two questions that I asked? Yes. Slee.
Thank you. I would just like some clarity with regards to what was said in the statement about the low finalization rates in corruption cases, if I heard correctly. What does that actually look like in terms of numbers when you say a low finalization rate? And also just some clarity on how the office decides on how to prosecute or when to prosecute. Sometimes we get to court and then we're told that the state is withdrawing the charges or something. What's the process, perhaps? Because you get communities who get to court perhaps and then see that there's not enough evidence to prosecute, or the state prosecutor doesn't, needs the case to go back to be further investigated. And of course that leads to low confidence in the justice system. So maybe some clarity on why charges are withdrawn and how cases can actually be prosecuted.
Okay, I'll take these three questions for this round, and then we'll respond, and then after we'll continue with our question and answer session. I think we should start with the first question. And if you can also tackle the one about ID, the state capture center.
The question was whether is the NPA moving towards charging the former Justice Minister. Look, the VBS matter is a multi-pronged investigation that relates to several municipalities. And in relation to who are the subjects of the investigations, our response, and I think this is what the media now has become familiar with, our standard response is that we don't want to respond and comment about pending investigations because that may compromise the investigation itself. So a question pertaining to a specific individual, whether they are under investigation or not, is not something that we want to confirm because it may compromise the investigation going forward. Then there was a question pertaining to how long it takes, for cases to be enrolled in the Pretoria High Court. Look, the enrollment of a case follows after the conclusion of investigations. In other words, the process would be a charge is laid, it is reported to the police, it is brought to the prosecutors for decision, and further investigations, if necessary, are conducted, and eventually when the investigations then are finalized, then a determination is made whether the case in fact should be heard in the district court, in the regional court, or even in the high court. So there is no prescribed time frame as to when a case should be enrolled. It all depends on a variety of factors, some of which I have alluded to. Investigations, how complex are the investigations? Are the witnesses available? How strong is the case? Are there public interest considerations that are applicable? All of those things are prescribed in our policy directives. And it is after a consideration of all these factors that a decision then is made of when to prosecute and in which court and on what charges. So the answer is there are no prescribed timeframes. Then on the state capture cases, the NPA has got a unit, the IDEC, the so-called IDEC, the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption. The specific mandate of that directorate is to focus on corruption allegations arising from the Zondo Commission. And cases that are being investigated by the IDEC, the DPP office is not involved at all. The IDEC has got its own investigators. It has got its own investigating director. So the decisions that are taken there, of course, are taken in consultation with the DPP. In other words, before the director of IDEC decides on any prosecution-related matter, she consults the DPP, and the DPP should provide his or her concurrence. So that is the process that relates to state capture corruption. If a matter, however, even though it relates to state capture, has been brought to the police, and the police have brought it to the DPP, there will ideally be discussions between the DPP and the investigating director. And if the investigating director takes the decision that the matter can be decided on or be prosecuted under the auspices of the DPP office, then those investigations will then commence by the DPCI under the guidance of our colleagues from the SCCU, and the matter will then go to court in the normal course. So the answer is, it is not, or it should not be the case that there will never be, or all corruption cases from the Zondo Commission or state capture will be heard by the ID. But the unit with the primary mandate to prosecute state capture corruption is the IDEC. And as I've indicated, if the matter is the investigating director decides not to prosecute on a certain case, then the DPP office will be involved in that decision making and conduct of the trial in the normal course of decision making. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe Advocate Makwati should deal with the question of 40,000 rand.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm moving around.
Good morning, colleagues. Ma'am, may I just find out, you said it's a GPV matter. Is it a rape matter, or what is the point?
They're both in
It's a
supply
rape
chain
matter.
on third floor, right at the end of the passage.
If you're referring to the matter in Pretoria
some
North, it was reported to
Smith.
us. We are
Smith.
investigating the matter. We're in possession of the case docket. We're just waiting for a report from the relevant prosecutor to tell us what happened. But that should not happen. They said there was informal mediation in the case. And in terms of Part 7 of the NPA policy, informal mediation is reserved for less serious offenses. Matters such as murder, your rape, your robbery with aggravating circumstances, and other serious matters should not be mediated. But if the interest of justice dictates that it should be considered, that matter should be reported to the DPP's office, because the DPP should authorize that in writing, and that should be attached to the mediation agreement that was entered into. So my response is, we are waiting to receive all the information from the prosecutor to see if processes were followed, and where they are not followed, there should be steps to rectify what has happened. That is my response. Thank you.
I think we are now on the last question of what is the process of prosecuting cases being withdrawn or for lack of sufficient evidence, and the lower finalization rate of corruption cases.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, members of the media. Regarding the question relating to the low finalization rate, I will speak to the matters being dealt with at the Specialized Commercial Crime Unit. we have got 34 cases that have been enrolled. That is on corruption. And we have got 158 cases for decision. And we also have priority corruption, where 4 cases have been enrolled. And we have got 16 of those matters which are for decision. I think the DPP touched on slightly on why these matters there is a slow rate of finalization. More often than not, these matters are very complex. In most matters, there will be a need to have expert witnesses in a form of forensic investigators. And those forensic investigators would usually have to deal with voluminous documentation in their investigation to ensure that they generate or produce a report that will be befitting to be put before court. So that is the process which sometimes will take a whole lot of time. And once that investigation has been done, the matter is not just going to be enrolled. Obviously, the prosecutor would then have to apply his mind on what has been done. And that as well, the prosecutor would need some time to do. So that is some of the challenges that we are faced with. And we cannot hurry the matter for the simple reason that we need to enroll it. We have to make sure that certain issues have been attended to, like, as I have indicated, the forensic investigation. Sometimes matters would include MLAs where evidence is in a foreign country, and sometimes we depend on the how soon or how late the response comes from that country. We make follow-ups to ensure that the response is received as quickly as it is possible, but in most instances, we rely on the country to respond, and only then can we take the matter further. Thank you.
Chief Matebe will then respond to the last question. What is the process for prosecuting cases being withdrawn or lack of sufficient evidence? You will just explain, yeah, you can come up. You just explain the processes.
Thank you, DPP, and good morning to members of the media. I believe the question comes from SLE regarding the processes to be followed when enrolling matters, and you were not specific as to which matters. But the process that we follow in NPA under general is that, is there a prima facie case for us to enroll? The rule is straightforward and simple. If there is evidence linking a particular person, we'll enroll. Sometimes enrollment or non-enrollment does not necessarily mean we are not going to proceed with the case if we did not enroll. There are what I call pre-trial procedures sometimes that will have to be complied with, especially on the part of the investigators. So when we do not enroll, it does not necessarily mean that the case is going to be closed, especially for members of the public. As soon as the matters has been investigated, whatever issues that we will have needed to make sure that the case is winnable, that is the test. Is the prima facie case? Is there something that we can put before the court on first appearance? And once all that is available, we enroll. If not, we'll set the matter aside, give the investigating officers an opportunity to gather such evidence, and then thereafter re-enroll the matter and proceed. It applies in all the cases, from the district all the way to the High Court. I believe I responded to your question. Thank you.
Okay, I'm taking the second round of questions. I will start here.
Linda from Newsroom Africa. I have 2 questions, please. The first is, and it's just general comments on this. The delays. Thank you. It's Karinda from Newsroom Africa. So 2 questions, a bit more general, is with regards to the delays at courts for various reasons, whether it be the court
resources itself, or in GPV cases, the lack of police resources? How has it been impacting the NPA in general to the point where a trial can only be set years after the police reaches court? And the second is, there are a number of prosecutors that have been accused of receiving bribes or extorting. There's one accused of extorting a businessman. What are the internal disciplinary hearings in cases like that, or where a chief magistrate is accused of bribery as well? What's happening within the NPA? Thank you.
There's a hand at the back. Can the mic go there, please? And can one mic come here also if we have another one? After her, then you can come here.
Good afternoon again. It's Olega Kodashi from EWN. I wanted to ask, we saw with the ID that advocates Paul Pretorius and Matthew Thompson were moved to the ID, or they are assisting in capacitating the ID to head those state capture cases. I wanted to know, in relation to the NPA, is there any move to do such a thing, since you did say that there were issues in capacitating the NPA in dealing with corruption-related cases? Is there such a move in the works within the NPA? Thanks.
Thank you very much. My name is Cliff from Jacaranda FM. Thanks, Advocate, for the answer on how the NPA works in terms of enrolling the cases. But I think what we can also deliberate on is the integrity of the people who are being brought before court. When you look at the case of former ANC MP Bulemabe, Zizi Godwa, Nomsamasuku of the IEC, and now Danny Jordan. With the Zizi Godwa case, it was withdrawn. So the question would be, what is the process? Does it happen to a point whereby the NPA declines to prosecute during a meeting between them and the Hawks before even going out on public? Because we always have these people appearing in court, the next thing the case is withdrawn. It deals with integrity, because these people, they may be perceived as corrupt because they appeared in court. And then the second question would be, are you happy with the progress made in the Senzo Mewa murder trial? Thank you.
We will take the third round, so I'll allow the panel to respond to the questions.
Maybe let me start with the question about the allegations of corruption and how do we manage discipline that was asked. You know, the NPA places a very, very high premium on the integrity of our prosecutors. We almost can say that we have got a zero tolerance to such behavior. And you may have noticed that when I was giving my presentation, I cited 4 cases of former and present prosecutors who are all being attended to. So all allegations are taken seriously, and when evidence is found, the consequences are implemented or follow. So I just want to say no allegation of dishonesty, corruption, and theft in particular can ever be tolerated in the NPA by any of our staff. And it is encouraging that even though the actual disciplinary processes sometimes may take time because people drag cases, themselves. But the focus is to ensure that every allegation of dishonesty is investigated, and when it is proven, consequences follow. And our track record would show that people who have been exposed to such processes eventually do get dismissed from the NPA. The question relating to the two advocates in the IT, look, I do not want to respond about what happens in the IT because, like I said, it is a unit that I don't work for. But the only thing that I can mention is that the NPA Act does have a provision which is called Section 38 processes. Section 38 is that section of the NPA Act which allows the Minister of Justice, at the request of the NDPP, to appoint private practitioners to work in prosecution-related cases, either to assist with decision-making or to prosecute generally. So in the context of Section 38, the NDPP can approach the Minister of Justice in terms of Section 38 and recommend for the appointment of a specified member of the bar or an attorney, any practitioner in private practice can be appointed in terms of Section 38 to work in the NPA. As for the two gentlemen that have been referred to, I am not involved in those decisions, and I think in all fairness, the ID may be able to give a more informed answer to that question. The question about the Senzo Meyiwa case, it is a long time on the road, but the advantage with the case now, and the judge president of this division himself mentions it on occasion, that case is on a running roll. It is not going to stop until it is finished. It is not going to be postponed for another term or whatever. It was on a running roll of its own with a judge that has been brought back from retirement. It's not even by a permanent judge. It is by a judge brought back specifically for the case. So as for progress, I get briefed on this case. And I'm assured now that it is nearing, at least insofar as the state evidence is concerned, it is nearing the stage where the state case is going to close. It's going to rest the state case, and then we will hear what the defense and the accused are doing. So, simple answer: I am happy with the pace of that case. It is taking too long, and it is a case that is broadcast live every day on TV. We know what the delays are and how they manifest themselves. One thing for sure is that we are anxious that this case should finish without any further delays ourselves. The integrity of people who are being charged and then the charges are withdrawn and so on. There is a process in the NPA, it is in our policy directives of representations. Every charged person, in fact, not even every charged person, anybody with an interest in a case, they may be an accused, they may be a witness, they may be a complainant. They are entitled to make representations. Representations are made to the, depending on where the case is, they are made to the senior prosecutor in the lower courts. Some of them are made directly to the DPP office. Some of them are even made to the office of the NDPP, you know. So once representations are received, they are considered. In other words, representations by a charged person, for instance, would be to say, you know, here are my issues about this case. And then all those issues are considered. If representations relate, for instance, to a charge, by way of an example, the person dealing with the representations will obviously have a look at the nature of the representations, what is the evidence, and in certain instances where it is required, there has to be discussions between the prosecutor dealing with the representations and the investigators concerned. And if representations result in the withdrawal of a charge, if they were made by an accused person, if they result in a withdrawal of a charge, then the person, of course, will be notified, and the complainant, if they are not satisfied, they can make representations to the DPP. I don't agree with this decision to withdraw. And then we will have to consider and revert to the person. If you decide to agree with the decision, then the matter doesn't stop there. There is an avenue to further escalate representations now to the NDPP to review the decision of the DPP. So that is a process that follows. But it is not a situation which is supposed to be underhand or discussed secretly. It should be an open process. In fact, there is usually correspondence files. So from the day the representations are received, a file is opened, the exchange of correspondence is there, so that there will be a track record of what transpired since the representations were made. The matters that you mentioned here specifically, I am not sure what were the issues, because those cases don't spring directly to my mind, and the other one that you mentioned is not even in my division. But I was just giving you the process followed when people are charged and charges end up being withdrawn. In the majority of instances, that would be as a result of representations made.
So in the absence of questions online,
there was a question, I think it was from a lady from Newsroom Africa regarding the delays in court. Yes. You know, I'm going to speak from the perspective of the Specialized Commercial Crimes Unit. And I think that's where we in most instances, experience delays, especially when the matter is in court. Initially, the DPP in his address, he indicated that, you know, these matters are always vigorously contested by the accused, you know, because one, they have got the funding to appoint a well and experienced legal representative, but two, they also have got a right to challenge any issue which is in the state's case, for as long as they do that within the parameters of the law. What do I mean by that? Or before I even address that, perhaps I should indicate that, yes, we do acknowledge that there are delays, but if you look at the numbers, you'll then pick up that in the last quarter, we only had 2 matters where the SCCU could not proceed. But all the matters are delayed not because of the prosecutors at the SCCU. And these 2 matters, the NPA is looking into them. They are delayed as a result of voluminous representations, which the NPA, in all fairness, should also have time to consider, because the defense also had time to look at all the evidence and presented the representations. So we take some time to ensure that they are being meticulously attended to. But there are also other issues that lead to the delays during the time when the matter is in court. You know, the accused has got a right to remain silent when charges are put to him or her. And once the accused decides that he's going to remain silent, what is going to happen is that the prosecution is expected to prove each and every allegation in the charge sheet. And there's nothing the state can do or the prosecution can do about that. That is the law. We have to do that. In other instances, you find that there is a constitutional issue in contest from the defense. And once that happens, there might be what we call a trial within a trial. A trial within a trial is a mini trial within the main trial. Sometimes it takes more time than the main trial itself. It can go months on end before the court can revert to the main trial. There's a plethora of issues why matters are delaying, but mainly it's because of the challenges that come from the side of the defense. There is sometimes a request for further particulars, you know, where the defense would request that certain issues be clarified by the prosecution. More often than not, the request for further particulars are voluminous. If perhaps I can refer to the section, I think it's section 87 of the Criminal Procedure Act. You may look it up when you've got some time. The state would do its best to respond to the request for further particulars. Sometimes they appear not to have any merit, but the state is still obliged to reply thereto. Even after that, you may find that there would still be arguments by the defense to say, we do not have sufficient particulars, and therefore we would like to have further and better particulars. Then the state has to supply that if the court orders that. And thereafter, the defense may still say, well, we've got further and better particulars, but we believe that the charges should be quashed simply because we do not have sufficient particularization of the issues which the state is alleging. So, as I have indicated, interlocutory applications, you know, sometimes a matter would have to be on hold until a ruling is made on the interlocutory application. You know, once that application is done, the court would then say, I need some time to apply my mind. Let's postpone the matter for a month so that I can come back. A month, we're talking about 30 days where you could have done something different in the same trial. Then you wait, and the application then after that period is then ruled upon. In certain instances, as I have indicated, certain contestations on the side of the defense do not have merit, like where they realize that they are facing a conviction, that they come with what I may say is a unwarranted, for lack of a better word, application for a recusal of the presiding officer. That as well will take some time. Until a decision is made, the matter cannot be proceeded. We also have got a matter where the appointment of the prosecutor is challenged, and we have to respond to that. That application was made right in the middle of the trial. In fact, it was after a trial within a trial was finalized. So more often than not, as I have indicated, the delay is not on the part of the prosecution. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, we have exactly 10 minutes left. So can we, when we are responding to the questions, can we be precise, straight to the point and direct? This is the final round of questions. I understand we don't have any questions online, so I will take 3 more hands and that would be it. Can Slee and who else? So it's only Slee. All right, Slee, you are our final question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarity on how the office decides on who or how to prosecute in terms of prima facie evidence. Maybe then if I could just delve a little bit into one particular case of the fake doctor, Dr. Matthews. He was going to be charged, I think, with impersonating a fake doctor, etc. And then charges were withdrawn at court. I don't know if there's anyone who specifically knows anything about that particular case, because the NPA withdrew charges in that matter, but it seemed to me, in any case, I don't know, I'm not a prosecutor, that there's prima facie evidence that this person was impersonating being a doctor, visiting hospitals all over Gauteng, pretending to be a doctor. So if there's anyone who can maybe clarify what happened there and why charges were withdrawn there. And then I know you said you don't want to discuss cases that are ongoing. In particular, my colleague did ask about the progress of the Meyiwa murder trial. Perhaps are you able to tell us whether or not anyone else is going to be charged outside of this trial that we're seeing unfolding in court? We've seen a lot of evidence in court about Kelly Khumalo, that she's a person of interest, but the NPA has not charged her and they're not calling her as a witness. We understand that the investigating officer is going to be the last one called. If you can say anything about that. And then just lastly, the perception about political interference when it comes to prosecutions. If maybe the DPP can speak to that, especially my colleague's question about, people who are charged and then they get to court, they appear, then there's this perception that they are corrupt, but then charges are withdrawn. Can you allay any concerns about political interference when it comes to prosecutions? Thank you.
Let me just dispose of the Lani matter quickly. That Lani matter does not fall in our division. It falls under the Gauteng local division. So that division is better placed to respond to your question. So I'll allow the DPP to respond to your 2 other questions.
Let me start with the last question about the perceptions of political interference. The NPA is enjoined by the law to be an independent institution. That on its own presupposes that there should be no external forces that interfere or seek to influence unduly, or in any form, for that matter, the work of the NPA. Now, perceptions are perceptions, you know, and they are born of many things, you know. People may see a decision and say, why is this decision happening to this one and not this one? That is a perception. And sometimes perceptions can be explained, you know. That is why, in fact, I guess forums like this are important, so that we can be transparent and accountable. But the answer is there should not be any interference to the independence of the NPA. Should be independent and act without fear, without favor, and without prejudice, only guided by the law. Is there anybody else who's going to be charged after in the sense of your case? You know, Ms. Masangan, it happens. It happens usually in our line of work that a case is finalized, and then as a result of the outcome of that case, either as a result of things that have been said in the case, or yes, probably it would be as a result of the evidence that has been laid in the case. Other suspects in relation to the same issue may become, well, may be charged, you know. So I do not want to say to you, as I'm standing here, that the lady you mentioned is going to be charged or not at the conclusion of this case. It is going to depend on the outcome of the case. I mean, the accused persons themselves haven't even testified yet, you know, and there is 5 of them, and we don't know what they are going to say. So I think in relation to that question, let's wait and see. I think that was the 2 questions here.
Colleagues, after the briefing, I will then send you the speaking notes that the DPP was reading from. And I think that is it for now. Thank you for coming. I hope everything was made clear. And yeah, that's all. Thank you so much. Oh, there's tea and drink refreshments outside, if you wish. Thank you. Thank you.